The rest of the story. A throng of shoppers was milling around Blackler's department store that morning when suddenly the electricity went off. It was not really an explosion that preceded the power failure. It was more a loud hissing sound followed by a muffled boom. The store patrons were perplexed and inquisitive, but the staff knew instantly what had happened. It was George, the new boy. It was that young fellow who worked in back, the electrician's apprentice. He was at it again, had doubtless connected wire A to terminal B or some such thing, and had once again blown something up. A moment later, electricity was restored, surely by the chief electrician, who was simultaneously replacing a fuse and scolding his underling. The sales clerks could hear it all. Don't ever fool with that, George's employer was admonishing. Stick to cleaning those strings of Christmas tree lights until you know what you're doing. And George was nodding glumly. Should he get fired from this job, especially after dropping out of school, his father would be most disappointed. Dad was depending on an electrician to fill out the family business. Brother Harry was already a fine mechanic. Brother Peter, a skilled auto body worker. I'll set you up with your own garage, he promised the boys, if George can handle the electrical work. George had thought it an offhanded comment, but Dad's high expectations became evident when that same season George was presented with a set of handsome electrical screwdrivers. Now he had to succeed. And for the moment, as a trembly-handed apprentice electrician at Blackler's department store, success meant simply trying to avoid failure. George's father had wanted a fine education for him, but his limitations in that area were painfully clear. Before leaving school, he had failed every subject except art. And he had passed that only because the art teacher had taken pity on him. George's parents never saw that last report card. George burned it. And if he were not careful, that same fate awaited Blackler's department store. And yet in this at least, the store owners were fortunate. George's next short circuit, while rendering smoke, did not cause a fire, except in the boy's employment status. He was fired. That evening he stood before his parents, his head hung low, trying to explain that he was just not cut out to be an electrician. Then how would he earn a living, his father wanted to know. Another job, the teenager said. The next day he was going to work full-time with the quarrymen. With the quarrymen? Both parents shook their heads. But this time, George had discovered the profession for which he was, indeed, perfectly suited. For those who got that first whiff of ozone and melting insulation back there at Blackler's department store in 1959, those people, in a sense, were experiencing history. A teenager's first misstep on a path leading directly to the Quarrymen. For that was the name of the rock and roll group that George joined. Of course, you know what happened when George Harrison and his friends changed their name to the Beatles, but now you know the rest of the story.